Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 60 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carcello in beautiful Los Angeles, California, joined by my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you today, buddy?
60 episodes. Ray, we are 5 episodes away from retiring. Not the show, but just in general, that the show will get better in retirement because age is beauty. You know, a lot of people say that. It was actually beautiful here in Philadelphia today, kind of like that perfect 72-degree and sunny day. But here's the deal. No one listening to this episode wants to know about the weather in Philadelphia. If you watched any of our teaser footage before the week, you know that last Monday, Ray received a box in the mail from me, and I told him, do not open the box, leaving Ray just left with this, what's in the box? What's in the box? Well, you are lucky, listeners, or people watching on Facebook, all of you who we care about, and thank you so much for watching the show because you're our lifeblood and we really appreciate it. Because right now, tonight on Geeks Who Like Sports, Ray will be opening the box and Lee will see what's in the box. Ray, are you ready to open the box?
I am open to ready the box. I have the box in my left hand. I have my little pocket knife here in my right hand.
Are the hundreds and hundreds of listeners ready for Ray to open the box? Ray, open the box. I'm going to describe this. Ray is now, you can hear it on the show. He is opening the box. The box is getting open. He's ripping it open with a knife. I've waited patiently for a week for him to open this box. Actually, I've waited patiently for about 2 months for this moment. It is finally here. Ray has opened the box. He has opened the wings of the box. As he opens it, he takes what's out of the box. He takes out the wrapping paper, the butcher paper. He's making a happy noise. And what is in the box? It is a fitted
baseball caps.
A fitted Yankee blue Geeks Who Like Sports cap, 2 of them, and Ray, watch this. Boom!
Oh!
Yes, we both finally have branded merch. This is a big moment if you're a fan of the show. Both Ray and I now have 2 Geeks Who Like Sports hat. Ray, I got the Yankee blue one too.
I appreciate that.
With you.
I also really like the red, white, and blue. The red, white, and blue one.
So Ray has 2 hats that I have custom ordered. Again, these aren't for sale. I'm sorry. If you guys want one, let us know. This is not some merch plug or something like that. I got Ray a Yankee blue Geeks Who Like Sports ball cap and a red, white, and blue ball cap. And it's funny, Ray, when I saw that one you're wearing right now, which is the red, white, and blue one, I said that's the one he's going to wear because I know Ray. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ray finally has a hat worth wearing. We can wear these out of the house. I'm excited about it. Baseball caps with Geeks Who Like Sports, the logo on them. It's like Spaceballs, but Geeks Who Like Sports. Geeks Who Like Sports, the flamethrower. That's coming next episode.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that in the mail, actually. Yeah, there was supposed to be. I got a call from Amazon today. They had a package for me, but then they hung up, so I don't know what happened with that, which was weird. But I thought it might have been the Geeks Who Like Sports flamethrower. So I guess maybe tomorrow Amazon will come back. But yeah, no, this is great. Yeah, I really do like the red, white, and blue one. The red and blue one in particular. They're both nice. They're both very, very nice. Both very, very comfortable. And yes, this will be a nice replacement now for my Australian Qantas hat that I've been wearing whenever I go out and don't feel like putting in gel.
No more Qantas, just Geeks Who Like Sports. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Oh wait, we have a whole episode to do.
We have a whole episode. So yes,
Ray, I ordered these months ago, and like I said, the tough part was waiting for them to get to you. But I'm glad that we were both wearing. I'm glad you liked them. You guys, look at that. You're happy. I made Ray happy.
Yeah, no,
right?
this is really good.
It's like making the Hulk happy. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true. I'm a very unhappy person, folks.
Hey, listen, the sun's getting high, big guy. The sun's getting real high. Okay, you got to put your hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is great. This is fantastic. No, thank you, dude. I really, really appreciate this. This is awesome. This is a great way to kick off episode 60, but like Lee said, we have a tremendous show for everyone today. We got a lot of sports. We're talking about baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. We're also got a lot of geek stuff, a lot of stuff from DC, and a lot of video game stuff. So, yeah, we have a full... Oh, and also, we have a very, very special guest in the middle of the show. Should I tell them now, Lee, or should we surprise? We should tell them now, right? Like,
it's the creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We interviewed the creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm sorry, Ray. Yes, you can tell them who it was.
Yes, we had one of the co-creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman, talk to us for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and it was great to see him, chat with him. We felt that it was a big enough thing to put into the middle of an episode, so that will be kicking off.
He was
Geek
phenomenal.
Segment.
He was phenomenal.
He was
cannot
great
wait for you to
to.
listen to that. Yeah, listen to the whole episode, but definitely if you have to pick a thing, listen to that because he was one of the greatest interviews I've ever been. Actually, Ray and I have interviewed a lot of people, both on this show and off this show. He's one of the best interviews I've ever had.
Yeah, no, I actually, it's true. I talked to him, and I'll put this YouTube link in the Facebook group also. I talked to him 11 years ago for the 25th anniversary of Turtles in New York City. It's a tremendous event. He was a great guy to talk to then. He was a great guy to talk to now. Awesome to catch up with him again after such a long time. And like Lee said, easily one of the most fun interviews happening that we've probably ever done. I think you guys are going to really, really enjoy that. So if you don't want to just jump to it, we implore you to listen to the whole episode. But as always, we will have the time code below. So if you want to look into that.
Yeah,
so.
Speaking of waiting, Ray, I just want to go back to this for a second. I had these hats here for a week, and every day I wanted to wear it out. And I kept thinking, what if Ray oddly FaceTime calls me and I have the hat on? So I didn't wear it one time this week. Okay? And yes, this whole episode's going to be littered with me complaining about the hat and having to wait for you. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, it's a baseball hat, which means...
Yeah. Well, it's a perfect time for us to talk about baseball. And unfortunately, folks, I believe this now more and more with each week that passes by, that we are not going to have a baseball season this year, which, will be catastrophic for baseball, as it already is losing day after day more and more fans. But the most recent development is that the MLBPA put forward a 114-game schedule. That's about 2/3 of the regular season. And they would be playing later than normal. They'd be probably playing into November and whatnot. But the players were like, we'll do this. We're happy to do this. And the owners countered, being like, well, we don't want to do that. We want to try and get things as back to normal as possible. So we'll basically pick up from where we would at beginning of August at this point, which would be the last 2 months of the season, do a regular playoffs, and then we can pick right back up next year as if nothing happened.
Oh, just so dumb.
Which, of course, if those of you who know, do you know how many games are played in the last 2 months of a season? 50. 50 games. Now, of course, also the other reason for this is that means the owners, the cheap, disgusting owners, would only have to pay players 30% of their salaries for playing 30% of the games. Now, we did a little math beforehand on the show. Lee, tell the people what 30% of a football season would be.
Well, I hope you all love your football. Now, we took this off the normal 16-game season. We know it's changing soon. But imagine, Ray, if the Eagles and the Giants or your football team at home came and they had a 5-game season. 5 games. That's the equivalent in the NFL. Is the NFL having a 5-game season. Ray and I would both agree the minimum would be 8. And that's not even good. No. All right? I think 10 to 12 is probably the range I'd be willing to accept kind of without a problem.
Yeah.
But 5 games already unfair. Would have to be in a neutral location. Can you imagine a 5-game NFL season? You couldn't. You play your division. That's it.
Pretty much.
That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all you would do, and I guarantee you that's what the NFL would do. It was just you play your division, and that's it.
Yeah,
that would be the season.
Yep. No, that would be it. It would be horrible.
Right. Tell them about hockey and basketball, both teams that have 82-game seasons. What would that be for them?
Yeah. So if you're a hockey and basketball fan, you would be getting a whopping 25-game season, a 25-game schedule, because of course it's about half the length of baseball. So you're only getting 25 games if you like hockey and basketball.
No way would I accept that. No way. It takes 16 games to win the cup.
Yeah. Again, you're basically playing your division
this year, but
yeah. You're basically playing your division 3 times each, and that's about it.
Ludicrous. To the Major League Baseball owners, this is what I think of your proposal. All right. Horrible proposal. The players brought something forward. You don't have to agree with it 100%. It was workable. This is ridiculous. Here's the other thing. I was talking to somebody else about this day. Was, well, when they get in the winter months, they can't play baseball. Sure you can. We're not playing in all the stadiums right now. It's going to be it doesn't snow in Florida in November.
Yeah.
It doesn't snow in Texas. You
all
have
the
covered domes.
Yeah, all the dome stadiums you
could
have.
play to January if you wanted to. Are you serious right now? Are you serious with that proposal? So I said this on previous episodes. I usually take a really good look at both sides because usually when it comes to collective bargaining, one side usually has an edge. The owners have completely lost me on this one. Completely lost me. I can understand the players being a little bit pissed. I don't think they're pissed about the 30% of their pay. It's they want to play baseball.
Yeah.
All right? America needs baseball, so I'm going to say this again. All right? I am a business person. I understand revenue. I understand a balance sheet. I understand collective bargaining. I understand costs of doing business in baseball. You are going to lose so much fan base if you do not come back right now with what is going on in this country, both medically, civilly, in every possible way. You are America's pastime, and I will never, ever call you that again, ever, if you don't get back this year. It will go to football. I will never call you America's pastime again. You have screwed up too many times. You could not be more tone deaf on this situation. Yeah. People are on their knees begging for you. Probably more than the other three sports, to be perfectly honest with you. And I hate admitting that as a hockey fan.
Yeah, no, it's true especially because right now that we're in June, yes, the Cup would be going on right now, possibly even wrapping
over.
up.
Yeah, it would be over.
Yeah,
just ending. It would just be ending.
It would be just ending. Like, I mean, the thing
Flyers
is
would be lifting that cup, man. Flyers would, it didn't happen that way. You see, I got Gritty. Gritty, you might not be listening. I got Gritty behind me. He's watching over me today. They would have won. He's making sure I don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, but no, that's the thing. At this time of year, I think, like you said, especially people want baseball even more because this is the heart of baseball season right now. This is when baseball starts to pick up. It's June, July, August, right? The dog days of summer. And I think more than anything else that the fact that there's no baseball around, and the worst thing that could happen is people could get used to baseball not being around. And
I know what they're banking on, Ray. I know they're banking on this. They'll come back. They'll come back, and I don't know if I will, guys. Like you already had the Astros thing going on.
Yeah, but you messed that up.
Yeah, I mean this is what was strike in '94. I mean this is 94 strike level.
Ooh,
bad.
That's even worse to me though because that was just money. At least this was. At least you had the excuse of the virus for this to at least start off, but
it's a spit in the face now, man.
Yes.
I get it because it's about money again. And,
yes.
And
at this point, yes.
No one's asking his players to play for free. Okay, but
no.
Look, we talked about this with the other sport. It's about keeping the game intact, keeping the what was the word we were using? Keeping the integrity of the game intact.
Yes.
That is not an integral season. There's no way the champion of that season will be dubbed anything other than a asterisk type thing.
Yeah.
All right. The NHL and NBA, and again, NBA we're going to get to, no matter what happens, they played most of the season. So, I think most people are willing to accept whatever outcome there is.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
There's no way. Even if the Phillies win it, no way.
Yeah. No, this is a disgusting display by the owners of Major League Baseball. A ridiculous and most of the time, and look, it's millionaires versus billionaires. I've said that before on the show, but which makes it a little harder for me to.
Maybe it's negotiating. Maybe they're negotiating. I don't know. Maybe this is just a tactic to find a middle ground. I don't know.
Maybe,
whatever.
But what the thing is now as we're recording this show, it's June 7th. We're running out of time as things are starting to open up around the country. Seriously, out here in LA. Restaurants are operating at 25% capacity again. They're allowing people to dine in some places. As things are starting to open back up, and baseball is the only one of the four major sports that doesn't have a plan. You're kind of losing us, folks. You need to. The time for negotiation is over. The time for implementing a plan has begun. Yeah. And baseball is just holding their bats in the wind. So. Yeah, so get your act together, Major League Baseball, because I am for sure sick of this. It's great for my stream. My stream's been getting huge numbers lately, because I'm the only thing they have as baseball fans. Twitch.tv/Ray Carcelo. But it's ridiculous. It's
the only good thing in baseball right now is that hat you're wearing.
Yeah. It's a nice hat, folks. It's really nice. But yeah, so that's Major League Baseball. Let's move on now to the other sports. Speaking, of plans, we could go a few different ways here, but we'll go with NBA first because they seem to have the most. They're the one who's had the most development this week. They do seem like they will be getting back underway July 31st. They will be down at the Wide World of Sports in Florida.
Yeah.
They put together a 22 teams will be allowed to come back. There will be several. So 8 teams will not. 22 teams. They're gonna keep their 8 playoff seeds per conference, but they're gonna play a couple more regular season games.
Yeah, it's weird.
And they're going to try to. There's a way that the team that's like 12 right now could come up and actually leapfrog everybody if they win certain games in a certain way. I'm not going to lie, folks. I'm glad they have a plan. I still don't quite get it.
It's complicated.
It's a very complicated plan, but it seems to make sense to them, and the Knicks still aren't in it, so there you go.
The Sixers are in it. Yeah, I mean, look, there's scenarios in this plan where some teams can lose one game and be out, or some teams can lose one game and be out. There's another scenario where some games can lose 2 games and be out. And again, I'm with Ray. Look, there's a plan. I don't care what it is. If you win games, you'll be in the playoffs, and that's the way it is. So, again, Wide World of Sports, great place. We talked about that the last month on the show. That would be really fun. And obviously, the Orlando Magic Stadium is right there for the bigger games if they want.
Right.
But NHL and NBA, as of today, you never know what's going to happen with second waves of the pandemic and so forth, are going to be back really towards the mid-July. It sounds like June, or like early July, mid-July. So I'm going to say this like I did to the NHL. Great work to the NBA. It's a real testament to you and your fan bases, and that you really do care and you want to finish the sport. Very, very hard position to be in to make a decision to do this. A lot of people are just saying to end it. I commend both the NHL and the NBA on figuring out a way to do this.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also just want to quickly give a brief tip of our cap to Vince Carter, of course, an all-time great whose career now is officially done because his team also not one of the 22 teams coming back, and he is officially hanging up his sneakers. He is done. So a quick tip of the hat to him. Sad way for your career to end that you don't get a proper send-off. I would love for the NBA to have him there, like maybe to do like an opening tip or something to kind of
they'll have him. They'll have him do something. Look, man. Here's the thing. If I was retiring this year, I might, and it sounds like he's done, but anybody who was planning to retire this year, I might think twice about coming back for another season. I've seen a few guys, especially in the minor leagues or the semi-professional leagues, do that. They're retiring. I've seen some that have retired, and this is it, but others that like it's not the way I want to go out. You know what I mean? So
no, for sure.
Great career.
But he's also probably pushed his career a couple years more than he probably needed to. So
it's very, very true.
Not to split hairs, but get credit where it's due. So congrats on a great career to him. You mentioned the minor league players. I mean, we didn't even get into the minor league mess that is baseball with the contraction of teams and stuff like. Maybe we'll get into that next week because that's just baseball is just messing up at every level. But also, you mentioned NHL. The NHL, interesting enough, now that it looks like the playoffs are happening, all the teams are locked in. Vegas. That means Vegas is starting to come back to life, which means it's time for the odds. You have a lot of odds makers in Vegas, and interestingly. We've seen a couple different reports here. On Facebook circulating, there was a thing that said
one
the
in particular
Rangers were like in the top 6 or something.
Yeah,
and I
think they're number 5. Yeah, it was Boston, Tampa Bay, and then it was a couple of teams like Pittsburgh was up there, and then it's like Washington was up there. And that's like the Rangers, and people keep sharing this thing. Like, look, the Rangers are high up, and I was watching this thing, like, I think Ray and I talked about it, but it's like. that doesn't make sense that they're that high.
No.
And again, like I know they were getting a little bit hot towards the end of the season there, but it's like they're. And again, I'm not saying this because I'm a Flyers fan, but they're like the Flyers were much hotter than the Rangers.
Yeah.
As towards that point, and the Flyers have guys coming back too. So it didn't make sense to us. So once again, Ray and I, being the journalists that we are, did something called research. We went on a thing called a Google machine. We typed in NHL 2020 Vegas odds. We looked for an article dated recently.
Yes.
And Ray, what did it say?
So it said something that it makes a lot more sense, but this also might explain why that Facebook graphic is circulating. Is the Rangers, the Rangers are one of the top 3 teams that are being bet on in
Sure,
Vegas.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, they're very recognizable in New York. That makes a lot of sense. But in terms of actual odds, the Rangers are middle of the pack. They're 40-1. They're the same odds as the Flames and the Coyotes.
Yeah,
they're
an
ahead
outside
of
playoff team.
Yes, exactly. They're ahead of teams like the Islanders and the Wild and the Blackhawks, which, by the way, the fact that the Blackhawks and Canadiens 100-1, completely get. I would put the Blackhawks higher than 100-1. They should not be the same odds as the Canadiens. But definitely not that high either, though. No, the top teams are the Bruins at 11-2. The Vegas Golden Knights, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Blues, the Capitals, the Avalanche, and then the Flyers are 7th on the odds list.
Yeah, and I've said before, the team, like, and I've talked about this on my hockey streams, the team to look out for, in my opinion, that no one's looking for is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are fully healthy. They have a much stronger roster now than they did before this started. And this team has been through a lot of pain in recent years. Last year, they got swept in the first round after winning the President's Trophy. The year before that, they lost in the Stanley Cup final. This is a team that's going to be hungry to win and healthy to win. Now, with that said, any prediction I've ever made on any knowledge I've ever made on predictions for the NHL kind of goes out the window because of the unprecedented nature of this. The Rangers could win the Stanley Cup. That would not shock me.
No.
At the level of like the Blues winning last year after being in last place. That was shocking.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're not, no way, everybody listening that sees that graphic, they're not 5th. They can't be real. And if it is real, find the source.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, it was just a quick search. Ray and I could not find one list where the Rangers were above 10, right?
Yeah. No, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And
So,
again, middle of the pack.
It's not a shot on the Rangers, by the way. There's nothing to do with the Rangers. Okay, I just saw the Rangers win the Stanley Cup last week. Okay, it could happen again. Ray, for those of you who don't know, Ray, I challenged Ray. We should briefly tap on this, and we'll share the video too. I challenged Ray a few months ago. I said, why don't you sim NHL 20 and get the Rangers within a few points of a playoff spot with about 10 games to go, which is exactly where they were. And I said, see if you can sim to that and then go and win the Stanley Cup. Well, Ray, very complicatedly, did all this, and then he won the Stanley Cup. He won the Stanley Cup in 5 games, I believe, right? In the Madison Square Garden.
We swept. We came back. We came back. We almost lost Game 3 and then had that ridiculous comeback.
That's right. So it was a 4-game sweep. Against the Winnipeg Jets. The Rangers win for the first time since 1994 in Madison Square Garden with Coach Ray Carcillo behind the bench.
Yes.
We will share that clip. It was actually fun to watch that. You did a great job with that, Ray.
Thank you.
What was your overall playoff record? Was it 16-2?
16-2. Yeah, I lost once to Washington and once to Buffalo, and that was it. So.
I believe that makes you one of the greatest teams in history of the NHL playoff teams. Yes. All right. Improbable comeback and then Stanley Cup, which is kind of what it's going to have to be like if the Rangers want to win this year.
And also much like Mika Zibanejad won the Conn Smythe, which basically same thing. Mika's our best player. He'll probably have to have a huge playoffs if we're going to do anything this year. And also Igor Shesterkin, which was, of course, the big thing that we did was I made Igor play every game except for one where he got destroyed against Buffalo. I pulled him early, and then the last 5 minutes of the clinching game against Winnipeg, we had a 6-3 lead, and I felt it was a safe enough lead to put in Henrik Lundqvist.
And then you won 6-4, which was kind of funny. But quick notes: Ray immediately traded Lundqvist after the season to the Ottawa Senators in the coldest, hardest move of all time. Just moved his franchise goalie to the Ottawa Senators. Well, he'll be mistreated and lose every game.
Yeah.
Way to go, Ray.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. You won the cup.
I traded Henrik to Ottawa, and then I traded Mark Stahl to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, horrible. Shame! Shame! No, I was kidding.
Hey, it cleared up a lot of cap room, so I can sign him.
You're not going to play that season.
No, I'm not.
You just had to win as a GM too. It wasn't enough to win the cup. You had to win the off season too.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we had 11 draft picks because of everything we got back for Lundqvist from Ottawa.
I just created a dynasty in New York out of nothing.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it would be nice. That's why it's a video game. It's all fantasy. But anyway, speaking of hockey and guys with their heads in the clouds, Max Kellerman had some inflammatory comments this week about hockey not being one of the four major sports.
What a schmuck.
And look, I'm gonna preface this. Like, I worked for Max for 3 years. I helped produce his show in ESPN when he was in New York. A little bit of time there when he was hosting with Brian Kenny, and then there was other things. And I was there with me, guys like Robin Lundberg, Louis Gold. There was a lot of us there who worked with Max. My good buddy Jared Bowden. But Max. Look, Max is nothing if not consistent. Max has always hated hockey. He always has. I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't like it. I don't know why he doesn't get into it. It's just never been his thing. That's why a lot of times I would get my airtime. I would get airtime because I'd be the guy like Ray, go talk about hockey, and he would let me go on 2 or 3 minute rants talk about the Rangers versus the Penguins or something. Bob Gallerstein was there too, and Bob always enjoyed my hockey rants. So Bob was also one of my my supporters to get 3 minutes of hockey into Max's. The 3 minutes of hockey would get into Max's 3-hour show. He's not a hockey fan. He never has been. Still, for him to just blatantly bash the sport and to just come out and just try and knock it down and tear apart its fans and tear apart the sport itself, it just shows. And again, I get it. He's just trying to be inflammatory. I think just to be inflammatory because they have nothing else to talk about right now at ESPN because they are dying with the lack of sports. And Max is also very smart in that regard. People don't realize that very much like Stephen A. Smith. It's all an act, folks. It's all an act. They're just like that, just to get you riled up. Because I've met Steven, too, and Steven's actually very chill off camera. But the point is that, look, he took shots just for the sake of taking shots. They were low blows. They were unnecessary. And you just come off looking like an idiot more than you do like a sport expert. And look, and if you're not careful, you're gonna end like Jason Whitlock, who was just fired by Fox Sports. So we'll see what happens, Max. Be careful, buddy.
Yeah, look, here's the deal. It's such an ESPN thing to say. Number one.
Yes.
Number two is like in hockey fans. Look, I'm a huge hockey guy. I mean, this would not be it would be fair to say it's aside from my family, my life. All right, look, we don't need this guy. We haven't needed ESPN in a long time. We have our own networks. We have our own people. We don't need to pay that dude any attention for the stupid, dumb crap that he said that he didn't need to say. Look, Ray, you said it perfectly. It was a low blow. I believe what he said again was that hockey is not one of the four major sports. Never has been. And here's the deal. Max Kellerman has not, this is a quote from one of my friends, Steve Murphy. It says, Max Kellerman is not one of the four top anchors. Never has been.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a great quote. We put that up on Elimination Cafe, one of the groups I run. But just no need for that. There was no need for him to say that, and I don't understand why he did. And, if you don't like our sport, that's fine. Like we don't need you, ESPN, okay? Yeah. You had us all on a high with The Last Dance. It was great, and then you shoot us down. Stupid. Yeah. Stupid.
Well, I think it might also be because of the lack of sports, because of the lack of baseball, and the fact that hockey is one of the first sports coming back, and that ESPN doesn't have any way
That's too bad.
I think that's why I think it's them trying because they're hurt, right? It's almost like a wrestling move. Where it's like it's like the authority coming in trying to hold down the champion or whatever. It's like hockey's going to be the first sport back probably, and ESPN has no rights and nothing to cover. I mean, they'll have the highlights on SportsCenter.
Yeah, but they tried to say like, well, the four major sports are basketball, baseball, football, and college football. And I was like,
that's not true.
I was like, first off, it typically said the four major professional sports. College football is not a professional sport. Okay,
no.
Number one. You could make an argument for MLS, I guess, but the NHL is bigger than that. I don't even want to argue the stupid stuff behind this. It's like we don't need niche network. We don't need networks that aren't niche anymore. I have niche hockey networks. I don't need Max Kellerman to lecture me.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that basically there's a way now, because of technology, for everyone who's a fan of whatever to get what they need.
Unlimited.
ESPN has become outdated. ESPN is not necessary anymore in a lot of ways. Yes, the sports documentaries are nice and all that other stuff, but we don't need Sports Center. We don't need their particular brand of coverage for a lot of sports. I'll watch MLB TV. I'll watch NHL Network. I'll watch whatever else. I can pay a subscription to not deal with ESPN and to just watch baseball guys talk baseball, football guys talk football, hockey guys talk hockey.
You know, I'll take it a step further. You know, this is what's funny. This will be my closing note on it. Apparently, it's not wise to piss off the hockey fans of the world. So apparently, the hockey fans, heard this and they went hard at Kellerman, hard. Yeah. So much so that I think Colin Cowher, somebody on ESPN, actually responded to the fan base to support Kellerman. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to thank ESPN for doing that, because it proves that we do have a large enough presence that they had to defend the comment, which means we were right. Shut up, right? If they had just ignored the hockey fans, they would have had a good stance there. But they didn't. They had to come back and say, well, this is why he said it. No, that just means that we're loud enough. If we made enough presence, that means we're loud enough. So go away. Just go away. Go make another Rocky movie, okay? Go away.
So speaking of guys who are always wrong and don't need to know what they're talking about, we're talking about the football, NFL football, and of course NFL football, National Football League now. Roger Goodell issued a statement this week from the NFL. Of course, protests are continuing still to this day with the state of the world as over the death of George Floyd and the dozens of African Americans who were struck down unlawfully by police over the decades of violence. The NFL finally has come forward with a statement saying that racism is bad, and that we messed up, and that they did the wrong thing by not listening to their players, and kind of a somewhat backhanded apology to Colin Kaepernick, even though they didn't mention him by name, because obviously he was the sacrificial lamb of a lot of this, where he was blacklisted by the NFL after taking a knee during the anthem. And some players, even Drew Brees came out at the beginning of the week, still taking a stance that you shouldn't disrespect the flag and the anthem. And then even he, towards the end of the week, realized, and not just because of pressure, but because it's not disrespecting the flag, it's not disrespecting the anthem, it's trying to shine a light, it's trying to bring attention to the lack of justice, the unbalanced justice that is done by our system in terms of African Americans are typically prosecuted and harassed and even ultimately obviously killed by the police in this country on a regular basis. And Kaepernick he wasn't kneeling to disrespect the country. He was trying to make a stand against police brutality. And so the NFL this week finally seems to have woken up a little bit to this. There's also very powerful videos put out by their players, from everybody from Saquon Barkley to Patrick Mahomes. And every NFL rep has come out, of course, applauding this. Of course, the fact that until Colin Kaepernick has a job, some say the words kind of ring hollow, which is understandable. But it is a step in the right direction. It's just a shame that it has come at the cost of, not necessarily at the cost of a black man's life, but at the very least of his livelihood, in the form of Colin Kaepernick. And it just seems to be a story that we are seeing a lot of around the world and around history as we better educate ourselves and delve deeper into this systemic issue. And yeah, good on the NFL for doing it, but I guess better late than never.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. In terms of racism, there's no gray area there in terms of it not being, it's not okay. Obviously, it's horrendously wrong. It's the Achilles heel of America, as someone said. Yeah, when it comes to Kaepernick, when this first started, I remember having talks with people who were saying he's disrespecting the flag, and people saying he's standing up for police brutality or kneeling for police brutality. And I remember saying, there's separate issues. I do remember saying that a lot of people said that he shouldn't be doing that to disrespect the flag. And at the time, people, even I was like, is that what he's doing? I mean, hope that's not his avenue here. I will say this, and I've said this before. Colin Kaepernick lost me after a while in terms of what he was doing. Initially, what he was doing I thought was fine. I thought the kneeling was not disrespecting anyone. I think it was a great way to make his points. I think that the press, the media, and politicians completely took it out of context. And then I think that he himself, obviously when he was wronged, and he was wronged by the NFL, he never should have been blackballed by the league. He started going on a direction that I could not follow. I did not like some of the things he was doing in terms of the socks he wore with like pigs getting shot and kill all pigs and stuff like that. That was too much for me. I'm not against police forces. I am against police brutality. I'm against excessive force. I'm fully with people that say, there are people that say, oh, it's just a few bad apples. I'm not okay with that. I believe it was Chris Rock who said it perfectly. It's like an airline pilot. You wouldn't want to go to the airport here and there. Like, only a few of the pilots are bad. Only a few of the planes are going to crash. Yeah. The police force doesn't have that luxury. Okay, it needs to be a 0% tolerance. But I am not an anti-police person. I'm just being honest. Okay, and I don't think a lot of people are. To be fair, I think that what we're talking about in terms of police brutality and obviously the racism that goes along with this and all of those issues are something that needs to be discussed and changed. But I like I said, I'm glad the NFL apologized. Again, Kaepernick for me after a certain point went too far, and I think he lost, from my point of view, the grip on his message. And again, I think the press and the media and the advertisements played into that. Yeah. All right, I think he still believes in his message. I just think that all of that was a mess. I'm glad that the NFL did this. The thing that would make this whole would be allowing him to play football again in the NFL. All right, and I'll make this claim with everything I just said. If the NFL is not willing to do that, then you just said it to say it, and it's going to be obvious. All right, if you really want to come full circle with this, both the NFL and Kaepernick need to come together with a unified message of Kaepernick saying, I've met with the league. We've talked about it. It's going to be behind closed doors. I feel like they've heard my issue. Okay? There's some things I said that I wish I could take back too, but, we've come together and I want to play football again. I think that would be such a good unifying moment. And there'll still be critics of it. But like I said, I can't give Kaepernick a full free pass, Ray, on everything that he's done. But his initial reason for kneeling, the initial message, I thought was totally fair. I thought the NFL flubbed it, and it's a step in the right direction. That's kind of what I can say.
Yeah, no, I mean it is a step in the right direction, like you said, and like a lot of people are saying too. Yeah, if they don't do something with Kaepernick, it does kind of ring somewhat hollow. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here, because again, a man. Again, it's comparatively, compared to the guys who have lost their lives, he only lost his livelihood. It's still something that can be rectified. The NFL has the power to rectify this, and they should. So, on that note, this will be a hard transition. So we go from what is a very serious subject, a very subject that is obviously still affecting our daily lives. Yeah. Again, there are still protests going on out here in LA, and all over the country. I know in New York as well. You know what else is in New York? The Ninja Turtles. I'm sorry, guys. This is not my best transition, but
I'll take it.
Yeah. So we had, as we mentioned at the beginning of the top of the show, we are very fortunate to have one of the co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman, on the show. We had a chance to talk to him for 25 minutes earlier this week about just a lot of great things that we love and hold near and dear, from comic conventions to, the comic book industry itself, and some of the interesting team-ups the Turtles have had over the years, and also video games and stuff that I think that you guys will really, really enjoy. So here is our conversation with Kevin Eastman.
Yeah, Kevin, again, I'm Lee, that's Ray. Our show is called Geeks Who Like Sports, which is pretty much a hybrid show between all geek lovers and sports lovers. We made a show that merges them together, and we found a massive audience that we thought existed, and we're really proud that it existed. And having you on our show is really an amazing thing for everyone, including the audience. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, first of all, thanks you guys for doing this because, it's I always loved that. Like, as an artist, I work at home most of the time, so it's sort of like I have my own space, my own ideas, and my own things, and I do this kind of thing. So this is a great way to fill in the gap because one of my favorite things in the world is going to comic conventions and meeting the fans that we get to meet. And I love that because it's sort of like, if you're working at home alone and you're doing this, that, and the other thing, and then you actually meet the people that sort of actually like your ideas, which is great. So this is a wonderful way to reach them, and so it's my real pleasure to join you guys tonight. So thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to see you. You might not remember I actually interviewed you 11 years ago for when I was at ESPN for the 25th anniversary of Ninja Turtles in New York City. There was a big celebration in New York City, and we talked then. It was a very long time ago, so it's a great pleasure to have you on another one of my projects here to again talk about Ninja Turtles amongst other things. So yeah, welcome to the show, Kevin. Of course, for those of you who haven't realized, this is Kevin Eastman, of course, the co-creator of the Ninja Turtles, also editor and publisher of the magazine Heavy Metal, and just one of the most prolific comic book creators and artists of our generation. And we are truly, truly honored to have you on the show, sir. It is great to see you, and hope that you are doing well during these times.
I am, and it's my pleasure to join you guys, and I extend my most heartfelt and warmest wishes to your friends and family that are it's a very strange time for us all, and I know we hear that every single day, and I don't want to be one of those guys that sort of brings it out to say like I'm not rolling it out to remind us us all that it's a difficult time, but we just power through, think positive thoughts, and then let's all join together and let's look down 2 miles down the road to what's going to be the most awesome time for all of us, and fingers crossed to all of us in between. So
yeah, no, for sure. That's something we try to preach here on the show too, is to stay positive and to control what you can control, and try and there are better days ahead, and just to stay strong. But we talked, of course, we mentioned co-creator of Ninja Turtles, and it's such a wonderful universe that Lee and I have enjoyed consuming for so many years. We just wanted to know, like, what's it been like to play in a universe for that long, and to be creative, and to have this idea be embraced by so many fans, and then just to continue to build on it for such a long period of time.
Well, to me, it's like I'm looking over your shoulder, and I see the picture of Curly, and that was like, when I remember one of my favorite examples of parents that were concerned about the Turtles when the first Turtles were introduced, and they're like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they are this, and this, they're so violent and stuff. They didn't have cartoons like that when we were kids, and they showed an example of the Three Stooges, which to me, the Three Stooges were the thing that was one of the biggest inspirations that I ever had to all things Turtles, including Bruce Lee and whatever. But I think that what we've been so lucky with the development and the creation of the characters of the Turtles is that it was inspired by our Jack Kirby's and our Stan Lee's and so many giants that we stood on the shoulders of, that we inspired by comic books and stories and adventure and stories, and whether it be swashbuckling and space adventures and things. So if you create your own characters that you can take to all those places, all those kind of adventures, then that's the greatest character of all. So that was our basis of the creation of our characters. And so we followed, it's like, I want to feel like, I know it sounds so terrible to say, but it's like, I feel like we ripped off all of our favorite things and put them all into the Turtles, and that what made the Turtles work, because everybody loved all those ideas beforehand. So we stole them all.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you made something truly actually unique though, and something that again still resonates with fans today. But you mentioned some of your comic book inspirations and some of the other people that you borrowed from or were inspired from, like Kirby and Stan Lee. And what I wanted to find that was interesting is that something that's getting a real big push right now, actually by DC, is the Batman versus Ninja Turtles crossover. I think they just finished their third volume of the comics. They turned it into an animated feature. What was it like to see your characters play around with Batman? And I think you even you drew Raphael for a couple of issues for that, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us about how that came about and what it was like to see the Ninja Turtles meet Batman, such an iconic 80-year-old comic book character.
Dude, it's like first you have to imagine yourself as like, I'm just like you. I'm the biggest geek in the universe, and so I love this stuff. And so it's funny because I actually mentioned to the people at IDW, and I said, one of my favorite Jack Kirby comic books was called Commandy, The Last Boy on Earth, which was very much based on Planet of the Apes and that kind of thing. And so I said, would it be great to do a Turtles Commandy crossover? And they went like, nobody knows what Commandy is. Or why don't you do a Batman? Why don't you do a Turtles Batman crossover? And we went like, well, we didn't know that was on the table. So they, when DC's fully tuned in, they brought in the amazing and super talented James Tynion and my best friend in the whole world, Freddie Williams, who brought that story to life as a comic book series. And then we did 3 episodes of that. But it was sort of like the Commandy idea spawned the Batman Turtles idea, which then was fantastic because it was a very unique and interesting idea, and it was sort of geared toward this older audience. So when Warner Brothers Animation got hold of it, and Warner Brothers had done, I think, in my opinion, it'll never replace, Dark Knight or Batman Year One and those kind of things, but they did do animated versions of those particular storylines, including, the Killing Joke and that stuff. So when they decided to do, Batman Turtles as an animated thing, I was thrilled, and I thought it came out really wonderful. And my friend Andy Kuhn designed a lot of those characters for that design, but it's good. It's like, I think that if somebody, and people have asked me in the past, and they said, if you saw the future of the Turtles and you said, where would you see them go from now? I would say, I would point them towards either a live action version, much like the Daredevil version that Netflix did, or an animated version, much like the Warner Bros. Did with the Batman versus Turtles.
Kevin, one of the cool things we talked about with Batman and the Turtles was it made so much sense once we saw it and read it. It was one of those things like when you put it on paper, it's like, this makes perfect sense. So this is my question for you. Obviously, that's a great crossover. We've also had Turtles cross over with other Turtles, right? So if you could do another crossover anywhere you want, I know you mentioned one already, but if you could cross over the Turtles with anything else right now, what would it be?
Well, that's such a great question because, it's like I feel like even the Batman Turtles crossover, which I think was wonderfully done, I would still would have, I loved the directors, I loved the animators, I liked everything that was done, but I still would have pushed it more towards an edgier version. Mm-hmm. Much like, like I mentioned earlier, I said, like, if you could do a full-on Turtles Daredevil edgier version, much like the Daredevil's Netflix version, which would be great. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I just feel like I would like to do a version, and this is drifting way back. I'd love to do a version based on what Peter and I originally wrote, and I feel like that I feel like I would love to direct a story that would be sort of the full roots and heart and soul of the original Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird story. That would be all the edge that we all loved and appreciate. So, but, yeah, we'll see.
Awesome. So we mentioned before that we like to try and be positive on the show, and we have a lot of other folks in our Facebook group that's always growing, and they they thrive on creativity as well. What message would you give that might help these folks who want to create something of their own? What inspiration might you want to give them? Like, what do you just pursue their dreams and to create something, create a universe of their own, or any advice that you might have? What words of wisdom could you possibly impart on our audience, who we know is again full of a lot of creators?
Well, that's such a great question because it really is. When I think of like when I go back to when I dial back in time and I think like, when Peter and I were first, creating and drawing and submitting ideas to underground publishers and stuff that we had submitted a number of things to like Marvel and DC and some of the mainstream publishers, which we get huge rejection letters from. But it was sort of like as the independent comics community grew, it was a small community, and it doesn't mean like you were making a living drawing comic books, but you were drawing comic books, and that was your dream, that was your dream come through. And so when you fast forward to today and the idea that so many different artists are writing and creating and doing things that are so original and so creative, that I think you have a way of reaching a much wider audience that we could ever have hoped to reach for when we did the original Turtles comics. That you can reach a much wider audience, that you can find an audience for your original idea, your original thoughts, and sort of explore it, whether it works or it fails or it doesn't fail. But the most important thing is like you have to stay true to your idea, because every idea that you come up with, you will have people that say, well, that's stupid, that will never work. I had parents that were deathly afraid that when I said I'm going to draw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for a living, they said, well, oh my God, we're going to have one of those kids that's going to live in our basement for the next 10 years. But I think it was just sort of like the passion of telling a story with characters in creation and hoping for the best. But stay true to yourself, stay true to your dreams, and then hope for the best, because it's tough about that.
I was going to say it's also interesting, especially for comic books now. It might be a little tougher. You mentioned, of course, in the 80s, you had the rise of the comic book store, right? You had these hobby stores where like geeks could congregate and just talk about comics or play cards. But you're seeing a real push now for you're seeing a real digital push. Do you think in today's more digitized world, what do you think is the future of the comic book shop? And do you think that the advent of technology makes it harder potentially to be an indie comic developer and get your stuff out there, and to, is it more difficult now? What do you think of the advent of technology, and what's that done for the comic book industry in general?
No, that's a really good question, because it's a big, and every one of those questions ends up like, because right now we're in that situation where everything ends up with a giant question mark, where you go, well, we knew the business before. We knew that if we created an idea, we exhibited an idea, we developed an idea, we showed examples of an idea, that we then sort of put in this solicitation market of, say, like Diamond Comics and things like that, which then would put us in a position where comic book stores, and God bless every single comic store, would order a certain number of comics that would sort of perpetuate and help us reach an audience that would find our characters interesting and stuff that would be inspiring, and that could allow those creators to tell an ongoing story. But I feel like we're in such a dicey, terrible place where you can have the most original idea in the world, and you just can't sort of find a way to reach an audience, because we have a million distractions. Like, you have to pay rent, I have to pay rent. Everything that we're doing in our life has to be managed and understood and pursued, so it doesn't leave a lot of opportunity for exploration for original ideas. But because we have the internet, because we have social media groups, because we have so many different things that we can sort of expose these ideas to a small group and potentially a larger growing group of people, that's the place where you build your audience. So much like when we kind of lobbied and literally like, or literally threw the turtles into the marketplace that we called the direct market, and who knows whether it worked or not into the comic book universe, but you have a way with new fresh ideas that you can reach a worldwide audience, even if it's only digital comics. That's how you can build bigger ideas off a digital idea, an exposure of an idea, an original idea, and then sort of hopefully that will expand into something that could be something that can be published and something that can be I want to say like I love to say a movie or TV and that kind of things, but those things you don't know about. But it's like original ideas are the ideas that make it all work.
Kevin, I got to ask you, again, I know we have so many minutes with you. Our show is called Geeks Who Like Sports, so we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up sports for one question here. Now, the word is on the street that you're a New England Patriots fan. So is that, first off, that's correct, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, good. So listen, first off, congratulations on the last 15 years. That's where I'll end that conversation. What I want to ask you is you have a lot of green in your life, all right? And when it comes to New England Patriots football, green's not a friendly color. You got the Jets, you got the Eagles, right? So does that come into the play at all, or do you have to deal with that, or is that something that bothers you? And then more importantly, how do you feel about Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay?
Well, look, it's funny because like people will ask me questions and they'll assume that I know what I'm talking about. I don't, and I'll tell you that right now. But I'll tell you that one of the things is like when I started like the kind of things that I was reading and drawing and doing stuff when I was a kid were the things that inspired me as a comic book artist and a cartoonist and that kind of thing. But I was like a huge like almost for all of us that grew up in New England, and it was like I love the Patriots, I love the Bruins, I love the Celtics, and I love the Red Sox. But we spent those years and so we live in San Francisco and we live in San Diego right now, and it's funny because I go like I've been a lifelong Patriots fan, and there was Bledsoe and so many other people that that were the leadership of the Patriots. It didn't matter. They were our team. That was my team. And so when our son Shane, who's a Patriots fan because I'm a Patriots fan, and people go like, well, you're a fan because they're winning right now. I say, no, my dad was a fan even before they weren't not a good team. They were a great team, but they just never got there. So it just you have to. It's like I feel like it's like you just have to be true to yourself. It's like, I'm true to like creators that are like, and artists that are like, and writers that are like, and teams that are like, and to me, even though Tom Brady might have jumped to Tampa Bay, but Tampa or to Florida, it doesn't matter. It's like, I like the Patriots when they lost for 29 years. They were terrible, and then Tom Brady made us win for all those years. But it's like, I'll still be true to my team, to my home team.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm from Philadelphia, so I understand that pain completely. Raised from New York, so he's had a year or two where his life has been rough. But no, thank you for answering the question. I know Ray's got another question and a big one, so I'll go to him.
No, I mean, like I was kind of with Lee there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like obviously, thank you for coming on with two guys who who ended up beating your Patriots, beating Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Eagles fans and Giants fans.
Yeah, I was hoping he would laugh there, Ray. That was a little dangerous, but
I was gonna say.
Actually,
I had to rib him a little.
Let me say that right now. It's like my most disappointing part of tonight is like I would like to be sitting with you two guys having a beer and just shooting the shit, because that would be the coolest night ever. So like here we are. It's like, look, it's Thursday night. We're just hanging out. We're talking online, and we're thinking about our friends and our fans. But like, you're the kind of guys that I'd like you to look. Let's open a beer and sit there and tell stupid stories, tell stupid ideas, and just talk. And I miss that. And that's kind of been like why I love doing these kind of events with guys like you, is that we miss doing these kind of things at shows. Because you guys are the best, and you're our fans, and you guys have given us the greatest job ever. And so I promise you this: once everything is gone and once everything is past, we're all gonna sit in a bar one day and we're gonna have a beer. Nobody's gonna record it, nobody's gonna think, but just we're gonna have a beer and just chat.
I definitely look forward to that. We talk about how sad it is. I've been in the for the past 13 years been a part of the con scene as a reporter, and also now I'm on the creative side. I work for a video game company now, and the cons are just getting together. It's really just the people. That's what made. At first, when I first started going to cons, it was the spectacle, right? San Diego Comic-Con, E3, all that other stuff. But then it's be like, this is my chance to get together with my friends from Seattle or from Miami or from San Diego, and we all get to come together and meet up and, like you said, just have a beer and chill. And sure, the spectacle is great, but that's what it really becomes about. It becomes about the people.
So to real quick, Kevin, because I know we got to close this out. One is I'm always tempting Ray back to Philadelphia with cheesesteaks, so it's on the table for you two. I'm buying as many cheesesteaks as you want. And then to close this out, we got to ask this question: is do you know if we're gonna get a new Turtles video game anytime soon?
Yeah,
that's a great question. It's like I want to tell you first and foremost. It's like I will make a cheesecake. I'll make a cheesesteak that will sandwich that will embarrass your country. No, I'm kidding. I worked in Delhi for the longest time, and so cheesesteak was the best thing. It's like you carefully slice the meat, and you sort of carefully slice the onions and the green peppers. You do this stuff, so it's like everything is like has to work. But I'll tell you that I'm sorry, I'm thinking about cheesecake right now.
No, you got us all thinking about cheesesteaks now.
No, but we'll
No, we wanted to know if there was a possibility of a new Turtles game coming anytime in the near future, video game.
Thank you, because that is a great question. Because thankfully, and my wife's Courtney's over there. She's laughing. No, because we've had like so many conversations with people that are developing a new Turtles game, and it's like, to me, it's like it goes back to the same idea that we talked about before. It's like we wanted to do that idea that was something in the vein of a Daredevil, edgier sort of version of the Turtles. So hopefully that will be something that they'll pursue, but we don't know.
Well, we would love that, and I think the older Turtle audience would definitely dive into that 100%, and probably let some kids play it too.
So in the meantime, I'm making cheesesteak for you, and we're doing something crazy.
Oh,
definitely. I love this. When things get back to normal, cheesesteaks and beer all around. You can come to. You go to Philly. If you go to Philly, Kevin, I'll go to Philly. Or you want us to come down to San Diego, we'll figure it out, man. I think it's a great plan. But thank you so very, very much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. It really means a lot. And we got to do it again soon. You have an open invite. Whenever you want to come on the show, Kevin, you are more than welcome to come back, man.
Well, first and foremost, thank you. And yes, it's like this is stuff I live for, and this is stuff I love. So, as we let's revisit this conversation when we talk about Last Ronin seriously. So we'll do that.
Awesome. Cannot wait. Again, thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
So, again, thank you to Kevin Eastman for taking the time. That was a ton of fun. Absolutely terrific catching up with him. Again, yeah, I talked to him 11 years ago, and he's still a fun guy, good energy, and we are definitely on for beers and cheesesteaks at some point.
Absolutely. It's cool. You interview a lot of people, and some people are super genuine, some people are not. You can tell, when Ray and I go off camera, we're the same exact person that you're watching right now. You can tell this guy is just like that.
Yes.
And like I said, we have other interviews we've done already that are coming up that are just as good as this one. We can't wait. Again, Chase Masterson's another one that you'll probably be seeing within a week. But with Kevin Eastman, again, thank you so much for giving us some time. This is a man who created one of the biggest universes of our childhood and almost everyone since. And for him to just be super down to earth like that is just awesome to see. So I was just, that's amazing to do. And we got to give a special shout out to our producer, Caitlin, for locking that one up.
Yes.
She went out of her way. She found him. She asked him. She set up the time. And we wouldn't have had that without Caitlin. So thank you so much for that, Caitlin.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you. And and a great, he was absolutely great to talk to. Like Lee said, they're still making every, turtle cartoons every few years. IDW obviously still printing new comics. There have been few characters that have been, if you look at the past 40 years of comics, probably Deadpool is probably the only other really super influential comic book character. Right off the top of my head, right? Obviously, we're huge Deadpool fans, but The Walking Dead, of course, has been huge. But all really Turtles, especially for that indie comic book scene, right? The indie scene of the '80s. That for something big to come from not the big two in the '80s, made it all the more impressive.
And that idea too, just that idea of teenage. Again, we all know TMNT now, but it's you gotta go back and be so they're turtles, right? And they're mutants, and they're raised by a rat, and this is how does that come to pass? It's unbelievable. And, make no mistake, that comic led to a lot of the other things that you love. All right, not just turtles, but things beyond that came out of that. It was a show that defied the late '80s and the '90s. If you were a kid,
No, exactly. And then of course the merchandise industry and everything, action figures and
theme song.
It remains one of the most important geek properties out there. But that said, we need to move on. Speaking of important geek properties, though, actually, DC Comics, a lot going on with DC Comics this week. We got two big stories. First one a little smaller than the other, so we'll get that out of the way. But Batwoman. So those of you know, we talked about this. Ruby Rose is not coming back for season 2 of Batwoman because we believe because of the injuries that she sustained in season 1, she doesn't want to come back. And
nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows for sure. But instead of just straight up recasting the character, they've literally written the character off the show. They're going to write in a new character now and have her become Batwoman, which I think is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. Look, you got to use history, right? You and I are, like I said, we're kind of journalists, right? So you got to look at other shows where this has happened, right? Where it's not just a recasting, it's a complete character change. And I'm having a hard time thinking of too many shows where that's happened.
Yeah, where they say it happened, and then where it's been a success.
It has happened, but we don't talk about it because it's not a success too often. I can tell you some good shows where they've replaced the main character, the main actor, and it's been fine. I know Spartacus was a Spartacus Blood and Sand was an example of that, where unfortunately the first actor passed away, he got sick, and the second actor came in and it was great. All right, but we'll see where they go. All I can say is this: that DC universe is one where they could probably pull this off. Like if I was gonna guess, what they should do is do something with Flashpoint, or the Speed Force, where it's a different Batwoman from a different world, like, because that kind of makes sense in the canon of how they do things over there. I mean, they have no problem with time travel and just throwing stuff out like that. But I hope it's not just like Batwoman's dead and someone needs to take her spot. Oh, hey, you over here! Hey, you're Batwoman now. Hey, let's do it. Like it's. We'll see what happens. But I'd be surprised if the Speed Force wasn't involved. And look, we'll know this is a tough sell, but it's almost like, could Ruby come back and film a transitional episode without, it's highly unlikely. But it's just one of those things that you can make it better if you did. Right? I'm really trying to think of like characters that were replaced, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, no, neither can I. This is a really weird decision. Again, like you said, to have somebody else come in.
2.5 Men did that.
Yeah,
and then the show crashed.
Yeah, that was So I mean, like, again, it happens, but it never ends well typically. I mean, look, it's also a shame for the character of Kate Kane, who has really kind of become a symbol for LGBTQ rights and whatnot in DC Comics. Obviously, she's out very as a lesbian in the comics, and for her to kind of just be replaced, and they're like, well, we're gonna find another lesbian woman to represent and have her be. And it's like it's. I think that's just.
Look at what we're doing. We're activists. Like, that's what it comes across as. Like,
and that is DC's
hire the best person for the job, man.
Yeah, I mean,
the character is gay. It doesn't matter if the actor or actress is gay. I'm not saying that they shouldn't look for that.
I mean, it's good. Yes, it's good when the representation is there by an actual person representing that that community. But
for sure,
at the same time, I think that the character, I think, is even bigger than the person that portrays them. And I think that the fact that this symbol now that has really, really risen in the DC comic ranks the past 15 years is now going to just be gone. Yeah. It rings like it kind of rings a little hollow to me. It really rings weird and panicky, and I think it's a very bad decision because also Kate Kane is also related to Bruce Wayne because they're cousins. Like there's that whole family line. So now how are you going to bring in Batman? Are you going to have Batman come in and is she going to be dead? Is Batman going to come in and mourn the passing of the original Batman? Like it causes more problems by creating a new character than
if I know them, they will. This is how they'll write it. It'll be a really quick sweep under the rug, and then you're on to the new story. Because again, this version of the DC universe does not spend too much time on character development. It's very episodic, so it's going to be very much like, oh, yep, she dead. Okay, move on. I think that's kind of like, there we go. Look over here. or like I said, use the Flash. You get the Flash, use it.
Yeah, I know Batman's not a big part of this universe, but they were talking about having him obviously because it is Gotham and all that other stuff.
They gotta have him at some point. I mean, they brought Superman in; they're making a show out of that.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. So it's just a very curious decision. Speaking of curious decisions by DC, they also announced this week that they're cutting ties with Diamond Distributors. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Diamond for probably the past quarter century has been the premier comic book distribution company. There have been other smaller ones, but they probably have like 95% of the market. Definitely the big two have been using them for forever. And it's good and bad, right? We talk on the show a lot about how bad monopolies are and how competition is a good thing. But the good thing about there really being only one comic distribution company for a long time has that it helps save money on the back end for the comic book stores, getting everything from one place. Now with DC using two different companies, one for periodicals and one for, I believe, graphic novels, the fact that they're going to use two different companies, this is going to just drive up costs on the back end for the comic book stores, and considering that we are in the heels of a pandemic where comic book stores haven't been open for 3 months, the last thing they need is now more expenses just to get DC Comics. I've heard people talking about they're going to stop carrying DC stuff over this. Like, I mean, it's a really big deal, and I think again it just shows how tone deaf DC is in general, that they made this, not only that they made this decision, because this decision isn't that surprising, but the fact that they pulled the trigger now, when you have comic book stores that are barely holding on because of digital, and this is just one more blow to them that they can't suffer right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision, especially from a business point of view too. Because like from a financial standpoint, I kind of get it. In terms of purely financial, meaning that like obviously sales are way down, and they probably don't want to spend that much money anymore to get their comic book printed. But the question is this a double-edged sword? Are you walking yourself off a cliff? Because if comics are not available in comic book stores and they're not buying your comics, what have you just done? So what this says is that, again, DC is tone deaf. I mean, there's not a thought about that. The question is, I mean, are you banking this much on digital, and then people are going to switch to digital? Are your video properties worth more than the comic books now? I mean, like, there's a lot of different questions that come up here. And like you said, the timing sucks. Again, I understand why they're doing it. The question's always going to loom of like, did you have to do this right now? Where finance is so bad, I mean, that you couldn't even help the comic book stores out, or come out with a statement that says, "Look, we're going to take the cost. We're not going to charge you guys anymore." Like you're going to get some sort of kickback or something. Continue to buy our comic book. They didn't even announce anything like that. And what that says is basically, we don't give a crap about you. I mean, that's the way it comes across. And it's kind of like the movie theater thing. It's like, oh, you'll come back. Yeah. They might not. They might not come back. And it's not like your content's been amazing.
Yeah, same with baseball. It's like at some point, I mean, look, again, with everything going on in the world, at some point, these major corporations need to realize that people are going to get sick and tired of being taken advantage of. And you just occasionally doing a little glad handing isn't going to be enough to hold them over anymore. And DC is by far the most guilty of this. And again, even with the Batwoman thing, it's just very questionable decisions by people who clearly seem to just not understand the product, not understand their audience, and not care about them. And it's extremely frustrating.
And if you do care, give us an indication that you care. Like a lot of times big companies fall into this trap of like, well, they'll come back. No, tell us that you care. Hey, I know the NHL and NBA care. I can tell you they care from what's going on right now. MLB, I don't really know if you care about your fans. I'm being honest with you right now. NFL, you clearly probably care. All right? You've done a lot. You've done a lot of bad and a lot of good. Marvel Comics, Marvel movies, you definitely care. Clearly care. I always felt like they listened to us, right? Even though it might even be just the illusion of them listening to us.
Right.
I have nothing of that for DC. Nothing. Not one thing. So I don't understand how long it's going to take them to learn about this. Like, do better.
The past 10 years for DC has been nothing but disappointment after disappointment. And this is just another it's another shot at the fans. And
they still have fans. Look, man, how about this? When DC, what was that app? The DC Universe app or whatever?
Yeah, the DC Universe streaming service.
Here's the thing. Like, I remember when this came out because I thought it was a little bit late. I thought that the idea behind it was a little bit weird. But one of the things that I was amazed at was how many DC fans were on there when it launched, and they were super passionate, super excited. And it's just like I felt kind of bad because I'm like, they're going to screw this up. Because, like, here these people are. I mean, DC fans are super, super, super motivated and diehard fans. I mean, they really love their characters, okay? It's a little different than Marvel fans. I've always said that. Because it's DC fans dream a little bit more. I'll say it that way, okay? It's not a shot against Marvel fans. Marvel takes place more in the world we kind of know. And they were there in droves, and they were ready, and then I started watching the content on there outside of the shows, and it was like, what the hell am I watching? Like, this is not a celebration of DC. This is self-serving crap.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
they need some new leadership over there.
It's that's the that really is the problem. Is there's there's a leadership void at DC. There's a lot of figureheads. There's a lot of people there's a lot of people who are only out for themselves.
So losing battle. You know, you hear about these Marvel movies and being on set, and how dedicated they are to the canon and the characters, and then how everyone gets along, how everyone's a great team, and everybody loves each other. Yeah, you hear about this, and I'm sure they have arguments, but enough people have said that I believe it. You never hear that from DC. You got Affleck quitting, Cavill quitting, coming back. You get another cut of a movie coming back. You know, figure it out, guys. You got main actors quitting from TV shows. Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah. No, it looks like an absolute disaster, and new ownership, AT&T, has not helped.
No.
Oh goodness. But hey, HBO Max is out supposedly, so good for them in there. So that does it for DC. Moving into video games now. Speaking about companies that just don't seem to know what the heck they're doing,
Sega overrated.
Yeah, so there have been rumors. We had talked about this last week. I said they might be doing something like a Dreamcast Mini. I was close. I got the mini part right.
No, that's really mean.
They had two announcements this week. One really only really properly really affects Japan. The other one will probably be worldwide. They're releasing a series of what they are calling Game Gear Micros, which are 4 different color mini Game Gears. The screen on each of these is an inch. It's I think 1.1 inches is the length of the screen. That's like this big, folks. That's like the size of my glass lens. Basically, is probably about an inch. Oops, hit the mic. That's about it. And they're gonna put out 4 of these, each one preloaded with 4 different games.
Oh my god. You might as well just give me back a Tiger game. Yeah. You know, with the batteries that ran out too fast and just had the 5 or 6 movements on the screen. This is not... I don't get this one. First off, that's way too small of a screen. Way too small. I don't get that at all, number one. Yeah. Number 2 is, people know what Raspberry Pi is.
Yeah.
Number 3, I don't remember the Game Gear games being that amazing.
No.
I remember I played Echo the Dolphin. I played Sonic. All the games that you could play on Genesis.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I don't remember any, Sega Game Gear releases that were unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's like, why would I play Sonic on the Game Gear when I had Sonic on the Genesis? It's just...
Yeah, or I have Sonic on my Nintendo now.
Yeah, or on your Xbox. It's
Echo's the only thing I can think of. The Tides of Time Echo 2, which I'm pretty sure came out on Sega too.
And I don't think that's even... I don't even know if that's in the list of the 16 games they're releasing.
I just don't know why this was done.
This is Sega, talk about just not understanding your fans and not understanding, the current world we live in. First off, you're 2 years too late to the mini console race, right? Nintendo blew everyone out of the water with the NES Mini, the NES Classic, and the SNES Classic, and then they were like, all right, they realized, because Nintendo's so good at this. They are so, this is like a Tamagotchi thing, guys. We put out 2, we make a lot of money, and then back away.
Done. Yeah.
We're done. They're not doing anything else with this market, supposedly. They've pulled away, and they've made their money, and they did a real good job with it. Sega, 2 years later, for a console that most people hated anyway, because it took 6 AA batteries that would just be completely drained in 2 hours. I don't have any good memories of the Game Gear.
The only memory I have of it, and I don't even know if this is a good one, Ray, is that it was the opposite of the Game Boy. And Game Boy was great, but this one was in color, and you could play some Sega games on it. And Sega was, but it was a novelty, and it wore off. There's also another console back then called the Lynx. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
The Lynx was a thing for a while. It was apparently better than Game Gear, just didn't have the longevity of Sega and Nintendo. And then I don't get this move. Speaking of this a little bit too, we saw this week a stat that, and follow me here because we put this on the Geeks Who Like Sports fan page about how every single N64 game ever made could fit onto one Nintendo
Switch cartridge.
yes, and then I jokingly put, why hasn't it happened yet? And everybody was like, well, because of the money. Like I know why it hasn't happened, okay? Because I know they could do it individually with the games. But here it brought up a really interesting question in the group. All right, let's just say they did do this, right? Let's just say it's an N64 chip, right? And they call it whatever they want to, right? I would pay quite a bit of money for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I might pay $100 or more for that to have every game. All right, and like this is where people are, well, they can make them, they can sell them individually. Let's not beat ourselves. I mean, there's really only 10 or 15 games on that system that were like,
you have to have,
yeah. All right, you can put all of them on there, but it's like, I'm not paying for whatever. I'm trying to think of an obscure 64 game from a long time ago.
Pilot Wings or
there's a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like
Operation Logic Bomb. Well, that's Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
sorry,
you know my point, right?
Yeah.
Like so that's what I'm trying to say. Like that might be the next thing they do, is just if not all the N64 games, put. Listen, I would easily pay up to $150, maybe a little bit more, if you gave me GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time. All right, I mean we can keep going here. Star
Mario
Fox,
64.
Mario 64, right? Well, keep going with me, Ray. There's a bunch. I bet you we get 10 games out right now.
Oh,
right?
WWE No Mercy.
Sure, I even put Perfect Dark on here. That was a great game.
Yeah.
All right, Racer. I know that's coming out already. Star Wars Racer.
Spider-Man 64.
Shadows of the Empire. Spider-Man 64.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Blitz, just for fun. Mortal Kombat 3, whatever you want. Mortal Kombat 4.
Mortal Kombat 4, yeah.
I mean, I would pay a lot of money for those games. You could even put Majora's Mask on there. I mean, and we're forgetting some of the best games they've ever had. Donkey Kong Land. I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well,
you know
the Donkey Kong game for the N64 was terrible.
That's what I said. It was terrible.
Donkey Kong 64.
Well, dude, what about Smash Brothers? And Mario
Smash
Party.
Brothers, original Smash Brothers, Mario Party. Yeah, no, there's plenty of games that you can put on there. But also, if you're going to do it, you could also just add it to the Nintendo Online subscription. Right? You have Nintendo and Super Nintendo games there. Just make them easily downloadable. Add them in as part of the subscription.
$5 a game, like.
Well, even I mean, it's $20. It's $20 a year to get the library that they're constantly curating.
Yeah.
Like just make it $30 a year and add N64.
I think that will happen because there's too many retro gamers out there right now. But I hate admitting this. I'm not even confident I could see a 1.5-inch screen clearly anymore.
No. Well, think about how small Sonic has to be on a 1.5-inch.
I don't get it.
On
Maybe
a 1-inch
it's a
screen.
Is it April? I don't know what year it is anymore.
No, it's not. It's unfortunately not a joke.
I mean, remember, there was January, February, and then 3 decades. That's how this year's gone so far.
Yeah. Also, other stuff from Sega. A new thing they're introducing in Japan, which it's a good idea. So I need to preface this by the folks might not realize. I should say might not realize the arcade culture in Japan is still thriving. It's basically gone the way of the dinosaur here in the U.S. because of all the technology. But a lot of folks in Japan, because they don't like to have the console market in Japan isn't as strong as in the States because they don't like to have the consoles there on display. That's why the Switch does well. That's why portables do tremendously well in Japan because they can take them, they can put them away somewhere, and they're not on display necessarily. But so this is also why the arcade culture in Japan has also stayed very, very strong because people will go and spend several days and several, $100 at the arcade for a day, and you have these massive buildings that are mostly owned by Sega. Sega literally owns it's a 5 or 6 story building just of arcade cabinets that they all own and make in Japan in the Shijuku region. It's insane. So what they've done with Fog Gaming is Fog Gaming is basically, if I understand this correctly, a way for you to kind of upload your arcade progress to the cloud and play at other arcade locations around the world, or in this case around Japan, other Sega Japan places, and even possibly pull it down at some point onto a computer or something at home, but you still have to pay for every life and whatnot. So it's a way to kind of bring your arcade progress wherever you go if you're that enthralled in the game, because there are games there where you get like codes and you get like pin numbers, and you can actually, if like in a racing game, like it'll keep your career statistics.
Yeah, that's
or
not
in
new.
a fighting game. So so like that's been around for a long time. But the fact that now you can upload it and download it to anywhere you want and not have to constantly, input codes and stuff. It's an interesting advent in cloud gaming for arcades, but again, really only affects the Japan market.
Well, what's interesting is this is the evolution that arcades needed 15 years ago to really thrive. I mean, I'm still not closed off that an arcade resurgence could happen in the United States if something like this happened, where you like you said, you alluded to, you could play at home or play in an arcade and go to the arcade. I mean, it could be a cool kind of hangout of like, hey, we're going to go to the arcade and play instead of just staying in our homes. Now, I know it's easier to stay at home, and I understand all of that, and obviously with what's going on in the world, this is not going to be something where everybody touches their hands on an arcade machine that we're going to want to see right now. But I love it. I love that it's moving forward and evolving. And look, I loved arcades growing up. I miss them. I love them. And I'll tell you what killed arcades. The obvious, obviously, is the consoles, all right, and coming home to play. But what killed arcades was the cost of arcades, right? And like nobody wants to pay $2 for 5 minutes. Nobody, you know what I mean? Like so, there's a lot of things that could be done to innovate a place like that to go and have fun with your friends. And I'd love to see people lining up quarters or whatever again to get the next in line. I mean, that might not be something that's impossible to research here again.
No, not necessarily, but it'll be interesting to see if anybody wants to take the chance, because at this point, most of the arcades are either arcade museums or world famous arcades, or what you're really seeing is actually the resurgence is the barcade. Here, like you said, is that adults going back and drinking adult drinks while they're playing the games from their childhood is become really, especially out here in LA, it's huge. There's a bunch of barcades everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a whole, secondary market now and a resurgence of people even who can fix these machines. So there is hope for the arcade in the future. And Sega obviously feels that, especially in the Japanese market, that this is a big deal for them. So that was their other big announcement. Again, if you're an American gamer, though, both of these announcements pretty lackluster. So,
but we want to know what you think.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. Other gaming news: Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, which is a game that came out about 8 years ago. It was towards the end of the Xbox 360 PS3 generation. It was made by Kurt Schilling's studio, 38 Studios, which was, of course, his number that he wore in baseball. And people forget, I mean, he's a jerk, but he's also a really big fantasy fan. And he's also a big gamer. And he invested in this, and unfortunately the company got into a lot of legal trouble and financial trouble because the game kept getting kicked down the road, and then because it was in turmoil for so long that when it finally released, it didn't release to much fanfare, but it was actually a very solid game. I think I remember giving it an 8 out of 10, which it was actually really a lot of fun. And so the fact that now THQ Nordic, who of course is this European company that ended up buying up all the old THQ assets, including this, and just buys up old video game assets in general, remastering it, remaking it, re-releasing it in August. So it's only 2 months away, August 11th. If you didn't pick it up the first time around and you're looking for something to play, I would really highly recommend this. I remember this. It's a good 60 to 80 hour fantasy experience. So if you have an Xbox One or a PS4, and you missed it the first time around, I mean, especially if it comes in at a decent price point, usually THQ Nordic is pretty good about not being crazy with with the price point for these remakes. If it comes in at like $30 or $40, I think it's definitely worth the gamble. So I don't know. Lee, did you ever play Kingdoms of Amalur? Did you miss that, or did you miss that one?
I didn't play that one, but I was going to ask you, would you bet a bloody sock on it?
Moving on, the
bloody sock. Give him the bloody sock. Yeah. I haven't read, but when it comes out, I'm just because of what you said, I'm going to take a look at it now.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you can get it if it's cheaper, I definitely think you'd enjoy it. Especially it's mostly family friendly fantasy. So there's a little bit of blood, but nothing crazy.
No, that's fine. It sounds like something the family could enjoy. It sounds like it was a game made by a geek who played sports.
Exactly. Exactly.
Perfect mix.
Exactly. So give that a look in August. Also, potentially coming out. So Sony, we talked about this last week, delayed their PS5 reveal till we don't know when because of the events going on in the world. Again, what else is new? Sony just keeps on kicking the can. I understand it. I do, but at the same time, they've also been kicking the can on this a long time now. But supposedly it has leaked that one of the things they were going to reveal, and now we really hope they do, is a game called Star Wars Maverick, or at least possibly codenamed Maverick. And the reason why people are excited about this is that it looks like you play as a Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian or a Mandalorian?
A Mandalorian, not the Mandalorian.
I wonder, do you think this is possibly that Star Wars game that was about Boba Fett rising from the grave?
So it is not Star Wars 1313. It is not.
I want to say that because I know people are going to ask that. Right, 1313 again was a canceled game.
Yeah, that had been worked on for forever.
Yeah, there was apparently, and there was even footage of the game. Right, like it was about Boba Fett. I like Star Wars and I like Mandalorians.
Yeah.
I even like Maverick. That's from Top Gun. Had nothing to do with Star Wars, but when you mix them together, it sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, also the fact that this is going to be a next-gen game. It's been known for a while that EA has been working on 2 Star Wars projects. Obviously, the sequel to Fallen Order is one of them, which is still probably too early in development to actually see anything, and this is the other one. This is from EA Motive, which is their Montreal studio.
Yes.
This is a big deal. This is huge. Who knows? They might have borrowed elements from 1313 for this, but this is a completely new project.
No, I'm excited about it. Look, the Star Wars universe again is still departing the Skywalker saga. Like a lot of people know that, and I'm excited to see where they go because I think there's nothing but potential for Star Wars right now. Even though people aren't super stoked on the cinematic side of it. We know 100% now. We got to talk about this for a quick second. The Mandalorian 2 did finish shooting in time prior to the pandemic taking over, and that they've given us the extremely specific release date of October. That's it. So Ray and I just wanted to quickly. So online there was an article. I won't say the source because I somewhat respect this source, but they said like, oh, we have the release date for the Mandalorian Season 2. I go in, read all 10 billion words of this article, and at the end it's just like, it's October. It's like, guys, I would have had a lot more respect if you just said Mandalorian 2 will premiere in October. This is the way we have spoken.
That's it. That's all you need.
That's all you need. I would have had respect for that. But no, I have to read six pages of what happened in Season 1 and why this is important. Like, come on, man. We've talked about this.
It's a waste of your time to write it. It's a waste of our time to read it.
Yeah, I don't even know how you do that. Yeah. But October, Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and next gen, Star Wars Maverick. We all win.
Yes, we all win. So now everybody's expecting this at Sony's PS5 reveal, so you better deliver, Sony.
This is the way.
Indeed, this is the way. And this is also the way now to our mashup.
Yes.
Actually, no. So we obviously, this is we're wrapping up the show here. Our mashup this week is a good one. Another good one that Lee came up with. We talked obviously about baseball wanting to only play 30% of its season. And obviously there is a lot of geek stuff out there that we think would actually be benefit from a cut down to only about 30% of its run.
Yeah.
Lee, what do you think? So we're not going to limit it. I think Lee and I are both going to talk about some comic books, but we're not going to limit this to just comics. So let us know, comments below, what you guys think, what geek property can be cut down to 30% and probably either be improved or at the very least not suffer from that cut. But Lee, I'm going to let you go first.
So a lot of threes here. I've got three properties that need to be cut down. Okay. Mm-hmm. The first one I'm going to talk about, the comic book is ever ongoing, and it makes sense for the comic book, but the show has just gotten out of control. That show is The Walking Dead. All right. They lost me a while back. Apparently it's still on and there's spinoffs. And again, if you guys love that show out there, no problem to you. But I needed that thing to be over with. Typical American, television show going way too long.
It's all about the money.
It needed to. Yeah, it's just it's lost me. Okay. Again, the comic book works because it's a comic book, right? Number 2 is I'm kind of putting this in the geek realm. I a lot of people wouldn't say this is a geek property, but there's a show I really loved about 10 years ago called Dexter, about a serial killer. That show went a few seasons too long. Season 4 was the peak, and it never recovered. And then the last one, and part of me, this is painful to say. Because I'll say this: not all of the stuff that I'd want to cut from this one is bad. And it's created a lot of conversations, some of them good, some of them bad. But my heart knows it, and I have to say it. It's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay? There's 9 movies. Well, there's 11 movies. You could cut it down to 30% of that, and it's amazing still. That's the truth. I hate to say it. And here's the thing. The prequels and the sequels were just not on the same level as the original trilogy. And again, there were moments that were. I will always say that. There were moments that were, but it just, it really does pain for me to say it. But Star Wars, 100%. And then everyone else is going to say the Lost. That's my wild card. Lost was way too many seasons. Great show, way too long. Lee Elias is going to cut this segment 30% shorter by stopping talking now.
Yeah. Well, for me, it is I got some game franchises and I got a comic book. Specifically, it's not even just a comic book. It's really a person's run on a comic. I bash him all the time on the show. Tom King's run on Batman. If you cut it by 60 issues, it's probably a really solid run on Batman. Yeah. But otherwise, there's just so much filler, so much BS, so much drawn out, turning 6-issue arcs that could have been done in 3. It's bloated, it's slow, it takes too long to get to the point. So definitely basically anything that Tom King writes can probably be edited down by 70%.
Wow.
So there's that, and then also for video games, 3 major franchises. Gears of War.
Yep.
You only needed the original trilogy, similar to Star Wars. Halo.
Yep.
Similar to Star Wars, just needed the original trilogy. And of course, everyone's favorite annual franchise, Call of Duty. It's just like, you don't need a new Call of Duty every year. No. You don't. So if you got rid of 70% of those 3 franchises, I'd probably be on board with that.
So here's one. Some people will throw in, why didn't you say Assassin's Creed? And it's because the story is very different. There were a few games in there that were bloated and too much, but it's not 70%. Yes. That's why.
Yeah, really, I think if you just the only Assassin's Creed game I didn't like were a couple of the handhelds and Unity, and that's it.
Is that the ship one? What was the one we were on the ships?
So Black Flag was the pirate one. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was
phenomenal.
Right.
The one in France sucked because France sucks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sort of actually not really kidding. I've been there. I'll say there. Yeah, I've been there enough to judge. I say this: Paris and Nice suck. The rest of France, you get to the rural areas of France. You explore France. Not so bad. The tourist
suddenly
traps.
Want a baguette and a chocolate croissant. Thank you, Ray.
Actually, that sounds really good.
That does sound
really good.
Cheesesteaks. Yeah. What?
Cheesesteaks. But a Unity, the one in the French Revolution, was not that good. Which is unfortunate because you would think a French-based company would make a better game about France. But that's the one they messed up the most. Agree. So Assassin's Creed does not need to be cut by 70%.
No.
Again, a misstep here or there is forgivable. Those other series, Gears 4, Gears 5, Gears Judgment, all unnecessary. Halo 4, 5, Halo Wars 2,
Reach.
Halo. I liked Reach.
It was
Reach
good.
I'm okay with. Yeah, Reach was good.
Did you
but
need
again,
it?
we didn't need it. No, exactly.
Did you need it though? Yeah.
No, you didn't need it. And then
it's a good game because you get to see Master Chief for 1/2 second at the end of the game.
So you don't, but you basically and Call of Duty, you basically haven't needed anything Call of Duty since Black Ops 2. I would probably say we're pretty good after that. Even really the first Black Ops, I think we were probably good, but Yeah. So cut all those. Let us know what you guys think below. And yeah, we appreciate you all listening. This because of the Kevin Eastman interview, actually gonna be a bit of a long episode, but we appreciate you all for tuning in for a very special episode of Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 60. We had Kevin Eastman on. We had we talked about a lot of sports, a lot of geek stuff. And we got new hats. Look at that. So for Lee, I'm Ray. Thank you all for listening. Again, comment below on all the whatever you feel like commenting on. Obviously, as usual, we're gonna cut this up and spread it throughout the week. And be sure to stay tuned Thursday when we go back to the leaderboard interviews. Our special guest Chase Masterson that will air this week. So be sure to stay tuned for that. For those of you who know, it's from Deep Space Nine and Pop Culture Hero Coalition.
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Yep, and Doctor Who also, the Doctor Who audio story. So yeah, so give a listen to that. And until next time, this has been Geeks Who Like Sports. Good night, everybody.